The summer sun beat down on Martha's Vineyard beach as 16-year-old Maya Johnson adjusted her red lifeguard visor, scanning the crowded shoreline from her elevated chair. Her dark skin had grown a shade deeper over the past few weeks of working under the bright rays, and tiny beads of sweat gathered at her temples. The sound of children laughing and waves crashing against the shore filled the air with a cheerful symphony. Maya checked her watch, just 2 more hours until her shift ended. Then she headed to her second job at the local grocery store, stocking shelves in the evening. That's how summers went for her, working double shifts to help her mom make ends meet. But Maya never complained. She understood that every dollar counted, especially since her father's passing 3 years ago. The memory of her dad brought a small smile to her face. He was the one who taught her to swim, spending countless hours in the community pool with her when she was little. "Water is life," he would say, showing her how to perfect her strokes. Respect it, love it, but never underestimate it. Those swimming lessons had turned into a lifelong passion and now a way to earn money for her family. From her perch, Maya could see her 12-year-old sister, Lily, building sandcastles with some kids she befriended. Their mom had packed Lily's lunch and sent her to keep Maya company during her shift, a common practice since they couldn't afford summer camp. Maya watched as her sister carefully decorated her castle with seashells, teaching the other kids how to create perfect turrets using plastic cups. Behind them, the beach was divided into 2 distinct worlds. The public section where Maya worked was crowded with local families, beach umbrellas in faded colors dotting the sand. Further down, the private section boasted pristine white cabanas and carefully manicured shoreline, where wealthy vacation homeowners lounged in designer swimwear. Maya had grown used to this invisible line that separated her world from theirs. During quiet moments, she would pull out her worn physics textbook, studying between surveillance scans. Her dream was to attend Stanford University, a seemingly impossible goal given their financial situation, but Maya had inherited her mother's determination. Every night, after her shifts ended, she would spend hours applying for scholarships and studying for the SAT. Her current GPA was 4.0, and she intended to keep it that way. The sounds of her mom's voice often echoed in her head during these study sessions. "Education is your ticket, baby. Your dad and I might not have had the chances you'll have, but we made sure you'd be ready when opportunity knocks." Her mother, Rose, worked as a cook at 3 different restaurants, yet still found time to attend every parent-teacher conference and academic award ceremony. Their small 2-bedroom apartment might not have had the newest furniture or fanciest gadgets, but it was filled with love and the smell of her mom's amazing cooking. The walls were covered with Maya's academic certificates and swimming medals, along with Lily's colorful artwork. Every morning, the sisters would wake up to the sound of their mom humming gospel songs in the kitchen as she prepared breakfast before heading to her first shift. Maya's attention snapped back to the present as a volleyball rolled near her station. She hopped down to return it to a group of teenagers, her eyes never leaving the water even as she made the handoff. That was another lesson from her father: always keep your eyes on the water. He had been a swimming instructor at the YMCA, and his teachings had shaped her approach to lifeguarding. As the afternoon heat intensified, Maya took a quick sip from her water bottle, the same one she'd been refilling all summer to save money. A light breeze carried the scent of someone's barbecue down the beach, mixing with the salty air. She watched as families packed up their belongings, heading home after a long day in the sun. The exodus would begin soon, but the next hour was often the most crucial, when tired swimmers might get careless. Lily waved at her from below, proudly pointing at her finished sandcastle kingdom. Maya gave her a thumbs up, then resumed her vigilant watch. She didn't know it yet, but her ordinary summer day was about to become extraordinary, and the life she was about to save would end up changing hers forever. In the distance, dark clouds were beginning to gather, though most beachgoers seemed too absorbed in their activities to notice. Maya made a mental note to start warning people about the approaching weather change. That's when she noticed unusual movement in the water beyond the designated swimming area, where the waves were starting to grow larger with the changing weather. Her heart rate quickened as she reached for her whistle, her father's words ringing in her ears. "Trust your instincts, Maya. When something doesn't look right, it probably isn't." Maya's whistle cut through the beach noise like a knife. She'd spotted a man thrashing in the water, his movements becoming increasingly erratic. The dark clouds overhead had turned the usually blue water into a murky gray, making it harder to track his position. Without hesitation, she grabbed her rescue tube and jumped down from her station, her heart pounding against her ribs. "Lily, get Mom on the phone," she shouted to her sister as she ran toward the water. The cold waves hit her legs with surprising force, but Maya pushed forward, her lifeguard training kicking in automatically. The man was about 50 yards out, well beyond the safety buoys, where the current was known to be treacherous. The wind had picked up, throwing salty spray into her face as she swam. Years of training in the community pool, plus countless hours of practice, had prepared her for this moment. She could hear her father's voice in her head. "Steady strokes, Maya. Control your breathing. You can't help anyone if you panic." As she got closer, she could see the man more clearly. He was wearing expensive swimming trunks and a smart watch, probably one of the visitors from the private beach section. His movements were becoming weaker, his head barely staying above water. Maya's trained eye recognized the signs of a swimmer in serious trouble. "Sir," she called out, now just a few yards away. "I'm here to help. Try to stay calm." But the man's eyes were wide with panic, his gasping breaths visible even from a distance. Just as Maya reached him, a large wave crashed over them both, pushing them under. The next few moments were crucial. Maya had practiced this scenario dozens of times during training, but doing it in choppy waters with a grown man was different. As they surfaced, she positioned herself behind him, slipping the rescue tube under his arms. The man was trying to speak, but only managed to cough up water. "I've got you," Maya assured him, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Just lean back and breathe." The journey back to shore seemed to take forever. Every stroke was a battle against the current, which had grown stronger with the approaching storm. Maya's muscles burned, but she kept going, knowing that stopping wasn't an option. Beach visitors had gathered at the shoreline, watching the rescue unfold. Maya could see Lily holding her phone up, probably filming for their mom, who always wanted to know everything about their day. 2 other lifeguards had arrived as backup, waiting to help once Maya got closer to shore. The man had stopped struggling but remained conscious, following Maya's instructions to stay calm and breathe. As they finally reached waterable depth, Maya's fellow lifeguards rushed in to help. Together, they carried the man onto the beach, where he immediately collapsed onto the sand. "Someone call an ambulance," Maya called out, checking the man's vital signs just as she'd been trained. His pulse was rapid but strong, and he was breathing on his own. Looking at him more closely now, Maya realized he was probably in his early 40s, with graying temples and laugh lines around his eyes. Thank you," he managed between coughs. "I'm James. Got a cramp. Couldn't." He tried to sit up, but Maya gently kept him in place. "Please stay still, sir. The paramedics are on their way. My name is Maya, and I need you to focus on taking slow, deep breaths for me." She noticed his smartwatch was still somehow attached to his wrist, one of those super expensive models she'd only seen in advertisements. The gathered crowd murmured and pointed as a sleek black car pulled up to the beach parking lot. A woman in a business suit rushed out, running across the sand in her heels. "James. Oh my God, James." She knelt beside them, her perfectly styled hair whipping in the wind. "He's stable," Maya assured her, maintaining her professional demeanor. "But he'll need to be checked by the paramedics." The woman nodded, tears in her eyes, as she held the man's hand. Lily had made her way over, holding out a towel for her sister. "Mom's on her way," she whispered. "She said she's bringing hot chocolate." That was their mom, always knowing exactly what they needed. The sound of approaching sirens filled the air just as the first raindrops began to fall. As the paramedics took over, Maya stood back, her legs shaky from the exertion. She watched as they loaded James onto a stretcher, his wife or assistant, Maya wasn't sure which, never leaving his side. Before they wheeled him away, James turned his head toward Maya. "I need your full name," he said, his voice hoarse but determined. "Please, I owe you my life." Maya shook her head modestly. "I was just doing my job, sir. I'm Maya Johnson. Please focus on getting better." She didn't know it then, but she'd just saved one of the most influential tech CEOs in the country, and her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The next morning, Maya sat at their small kitchen table, absently stirring her cereal while her mom watched the local news. The rescue had made headlines, and there on the screen was shaky phone footage of Maya pulling the man to safety. Her mom reached over and squeezed her hand, pride shining in her eyes. And in local news, tech billionaire James Richardson, CEO of Future Dynamics, was saved from drowning yesterday by a teenage lifeguard at Martha's Vineyard Public Beach, the news anchor announced. Maya's spoon clattered against her bowl. Future Dynamics, the company that made her school's computers and half the phones in the world. "Baby, you didn't tell me it was James Richardson," her mom exclaimed, turning up the volume. Lily, who had been drawing at the other end of the table, looked up with wide eyes. "I didn't know, Mom," Maya said quietly, watching as the news showed a picture of James in a business suit, standing in front of his company logo. He was just someone who needed help. The phone rang, making them all jump. It was the beach management office. They wanted Maya to come in early to talk about the incident. Her mom insisted on driving her, even though it meant being late for her morning shift at the diner. When they arrived at the office, they found not just the beach manager, but a whole group of people in business attire. Among them was the woman from yesterday who introduced herself as Patricia Chen, James Richardson's chief of staff. "Mr. Richardson is recovering well at Martha's Vineyard Hospital," Patricia explained, her voice warm. "He's asked to meet with you and your family, if you're willing." Maya looked at her mom, who nodded encouragingly. 20 minutes later, they were walking into a private hospital room where James Richardson sat propped up in bed, looking much better than the last time Maya had seen him. His wife stood nearby, her eyes red from crying but with a grateful smile on her face. "Maya Johnson," James said, his face lighting up. "My guardian angel." He tried to sit up straighter but winced slightly. "Please come in, all of you." Maya's mom stepped forward, her hand on Maya's shoulder. "Mr. Richardson, I'm Rose Johnson, Maya's mother, and this is her sister Lily." "Mrs. Johnson, you've raised an extraordinary daughter," James said sincerely. "The doctors told me that without her quick action and professional rescue technique, I might not have made it. I had a severe muscle cramp due to dehydration, and with those weather conditions." He shook his head, then looked directly at Maya. "But that's not all that's extraordinary about you, is it?" Maya shifted uncomfortably, but James continued. "My staff did some research. Perfect GPA, president of the science club, 3 jobs to help support your family, and dreams of studying computer science at Stanford, my alma mater, by the way." Rose's grip on Maya's shoulder tightened slightly. They'd never told anyone about Stanford. It had seemed like such an impossible dream that they kept it private, like a precious secret. "Maya," James said, his voice growing serious, "yesterday you saved my life without knowing or caring who I was. You risked yourself in dangerous conditions because that's who you are. Through my foundation, I help promising students achieve their dreams, but I've never met anyone quite like you." He pressed a button to raise his bed to a sitting position. "I'd like to create a scholarship program in your name. The Maya Johnson Future Leaders Scholarship. You'd be its first recipient, with a full ride to any college of your choice, including Stanford." Maya felt her knees go weak. Her mom guided her to a chair while Lily grabbed her hand. "Mr. Richardson," Rose began, her voice trembling, "that's incredibly generous, but—" "Please, let me finish," James said gently. "This isn't charity, Mrs. Johnson. This is an investment in the future. Maya has shown extraordinary character, courage, and capability. Those are exactly the qualities we need in our next generation of leaders." He turned back to Maya, who was still trying to process his words. "I understand you're interested in computer science and artificial intelligence." Maya nodded, finding her voice. "Yes, sir. I've been teaching myself coding through free online courses. I want to develop AI systems that can help predict and prevent accidents in water to save more lives." James smiled broadly. "See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Not just intelligence, but vision. Purpose." He looked at Rose. "Mrs. Johnson, I understand you once dreamed of opening your own restaurant." Rose's eyes widened. "How did you?" "My staff is very thorough," James said with a small smile. The scholarship program I'm proposing isn't just about Maya. It's about lifting up entire families, creating lasting change. We want to help you achieve your dreams too. Maya watched as tears filled her mother's eyes. For years, she'd watched her mom put aside her own dreams to give her children a chance at a better life. Now, sitting in this hospital room, everything they'd ever hoped for seemed suddenly within reach. "I don't know what to say," Maya finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Say yes," James replied simply. "Say yes, and let's show the world what happens when talent meets opportunity." Through her own tears, Maya saw Lily bouncing excitedly in her chair, her mom wiping her eyes, and James Richardson looking at them all with genuine warmth. Yesterday, she'd saved a life. Today, that same life was offering to save their future. The drive home from the hospital felt surreal. Rose had called in sick to all 3 of her jobs for the first time in years. Now they sat around their small living room, the afternoon sun streaming through their worn curtains, trying to process everything that had just happened. "Mom, are we really going to do this?" Maya asked, hugging a cushion to her chest. The scholarship papers James had given them sat on their coffee table, thick with possibility and promise. Rose picked up the documents again, her hands slightly shaking. "Baby, this isn't just a scholarship. This is everything we've been praying for." She looked around their apartment, at the water stain in the corner they could never quite fix, at the second-hand furniture they'd carefully maintained over the years. "But I want to make sure you understand, there will be expectations, pressure." Lily, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up from her spot on the floor. "But Maya's good with pressure. Remember when she took her sedatives while having the flu because we couldn't afford to reschedule?" The memory brought a mix of pride and pain to Rose's face. She'd felt so helpless that day, watching her daughter drag herself to the test center, determined not to waste the registration fee they'd saved for months. The doorbell rang, making them all jump. Rose opened it to find Patricia Chen, James's chief of staff, holding several bags and a laptop. "I hope I'm not interrupting," Patricia said warmly. "James asked me to walk you through everything in detail. He knows this is a big decision, and he wants you to have all the information you need." Over the next 2 hours, Patricia laid out the full scope of James's proposition. The scholarship wasn't just about college tuition. It included housing, meals, books, a laptop, and even a monthly stipend. For Rose, there would be business classes, mentorship from successful restaurant owners, and seed money for her own restaurant. "What's the catch?" Maya finally asked, voicing the question they'd all been thinking. Patricia smiled. James expected that question. "The catch is that you'll be the face of the foundation. Your story. A young lifeguard saving a CEO, leading to a program that helps other talented students from similar backgrounds. It's powerful. It could inspire others to create similar opportunities." "So we'd be in the media?" Rose asked, concern crossing her face. "Only as much as you're comfortable with," Patricia assured them. "We have an excellent PR team that can help manage everything. The foundation's success doesn't depend on your public participation. That's entirely your choice." Maya got up and walked to the window, looking out at their neighborhood. Kids were playing basketball in the street, using a milk crate as a hoop, the same way she and Lily used to play. "What about our home? Our community?" Patricia's expression softened. "Maya, this opportunity doesn't mean you have to leave everything behind. In fact, James hopes you'll stay connected to your community. The foundation plans to establish a mentorship program where scholarship recipients can help other students from their neighborhoods." Lily raised her hand like she was in school, making everyone smile. "What about me?" "You're included too," Patricia said kindly. "The foundation will ensure your education is taken care of through college. James believes in supporting the whole family." Rose wiped tears from her eyes. "My late husband always said education was the key to everything. He worked so hard to make sure the girls would have chances we didn't have." Her voice broke slightly. Maya went to her mother, wrapping her arms around her. "Dad would want us to take this chance, Mom. Remember what he always said. When opportunity knocks, you better make sure you're ready to answer," Rose finished, managing a watery smile. Patricia pulled out one more document. "There's something else. James would like to offer you an internship at Future Dynamics next summer, Maya. You'd work directly with our AI development team. the same team working on water safety systems. Maya's eyes widened. She'd read about Future Dynamics AI projects in technology blogs she followed at the library. Their work in predictive safety systems was revolutionary. Could I really help develop systems that might save other people? Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. Patricia nodded. James says you already understand something crucial, that technology should serve humanity. That's exactly the perspective we need. Rose gathered her daughters close, looking at the life-changing papers spread across their coffee table. Years of struggle, of making do, of dreams deferred, and now this door was opening. We should pray about it, Rose said finally, her voice steady. But I think your father is watching right now, and I know exactly what he'd say. Maya looked at her mom, then at her sister's hopeful face, then at Patricia's patient smile. Sometimes the biggest moments in life came disguised as ordinary decisions. But there was nothing ordinary about this moment. This was their chance to rewrite their story. When do we start? Maya asked, her voice full of determination. Patricia beamed. How about right now? The local newspaper headline read, Local Lifeguards Heroic Rescue Leads to Life-Changing Scholarship Foundation. Maya stared at her own photo on the front page, still unable to believe how much had changed in just 2 weeks. Their apartment was now filled with boxes, some packed, others waiting. Rose had finally quit 2 of her restaurant jobs, keeping only the one at the high-end bistro where she could learn more about restaurant management. The owner, touched by their story, had offered to mentor her through the process of opening her own place. Maya, the business class registration is open, Rose called from their newly donated laptop. James had insisted on getting them proper equipment, saying it was essential for both Maya's coding practice and Rose's business planning. The excitement in her mom's voice made Maya smile. She couldn't remember the last time she'd heard her sound so hopeful. But change, even good change, brought its own challenges. Maya noticed the whispers at the beach, where she still worked her lifeguard shifts. Some people treated her differently now, either with excessive friendliness or barely concealed resentment. A few even suggested she'd somehow planned the whole rescue. Just ignore them, her supervisor had said kindly. They'll find something else to talk about soon enough. Still, it hurt to have people question her character, especially in the community she'd grown up in. Lily bounced into the room, interrupting Maya's thoughts. Look what came in the mail. She held up a brochure for their new school. A better-equipped public school in a nearby district where they'd be moving next month. The foundation had helped them find an affordable house in a safe neighborhood, close enough that Rose could still pursue her restaurant dreams in their old community. Did you show Mom your science project idea? Maya asked, grateful for her sister's constant enthusiasm. Lily had been inspired by Maya's coding interests and had decided to learn basic programming herself. Not yet. She's busy watching cooking videos. I think she's already planning her restaurant menu. Lily flopped onto the couch beside Maya. Do you think people will still like us when we move? The question caught Maya off guard. Why wouldn't they? Tommy from next door said we're getting too big for our boots, Lily admitted quietly. That will forget where we came from. Maya pulled her sister close. Hey, look at me. We're still us. We're still the same family that has movie nights with burnt popcorn because Mom always forgets to set the timer. We're still the girls who know every pothole on Baker Street because we've ridden our bikes over them 1,000,000 times. Moving to a new house doesn't change who we are. The doorbell rang. It was Patricia with more papers to sign and news about Maya's upcoming internship orientation. But this time, she also brought a surprise guest, James's wife, Laura. I hope you don't mind me dropping by, Laura said warmly. I wanted to share something with you all. She pulled out her phone and showed them a video of James speaking at a tech conference the day before. On the screen, James stood at a podium, looking fully recovered. Yesterday, I announced our new scholarship foundation, he was saying. Today, I want to tell you why this matters. 2 weeks ago, I experienced firsthand what happens when we fail to recognize and nurture talent in all our communities. A 16-year-old girl saved my life, and in doing so, opened my eyes. We talk about diversity in tech, about creating opportunities, but we need to do more than talk. The video continued, but Maya was distracted by her mom's quiet sniffling. Rose had been strong through everything, but sometimes the enormity of their changing circumstances overwhelmed her. "Mrs. Johnson," Laura said gently, "I know this is a lot, but you should know. James hasn't stopped talking about your family's grace and dignity through all of this. You're not just receiving an opportunity, you're helping create a model for how we can make real change." Later that evening, as they sat around their dinner table for the last time in their old apartment, Rose made them hold hands and pray, just like they used to do with Dad. "Thank you for our blessings," she said, her voice steady, "and help us remember that with greater blessings come greater responsibility." Maya looked around at their half-packed apartment, at her sister's hopeful face, at her mom's determined smile. Change was coming fast, but they were facing it together. Tomorrow, she had her first meeting with the Future Dynamics development team. They wanted her input on their water safety AI project. Next week, her mom would start her business classes. "Hey," Lily said suddenly, "can we still have movie nights in the new house?" "Baby, some things will never change," Rose assured her, reaching for the popcorn. "Now, who's going to help me set the timer right this time?" They all laughed, and in that moment, Maya knew they would be okay. They weren't leaving their old life behind. They were building on its foundation, growing stronger together, just like they always had. 6 months had passed since the rescue, and Maya sat in her new bedroom, staring at her Stanford acceptance letter. The words "congratulations" seemed to glow on the page, but instead of pure joy, she felt a knot in her stomach. Tomorrow, she would be giving her first public speech as the face of the foundation, and her thoughts kept drifting to the comments she'd seen online. "She just got lucky," one had said. "Right place, right time." Another, "Must be nice to get everything handed to you." Maya hadn't told her mom about these comments, but they echoed in her head as she tried to write her speech. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called, quickly wiping her eyes. Rose entered carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate, their special tradition for tough moments. "I thought you might need this," her mom said, sitting on the edge of Maya's bed. "Want to tell me what's really bothering you?" Maya took a deep breath. "Mom, what if they're right? What if I'm not good enough? The other interns at Future Dynamics all come from private schools. They've been coding since they were 10. I'm just..." "Just what?" Rose interrupted gently. "Just the girl who taught herself coding using library computers. Just the student who maintained perfect grades while working 2 jobs. Just the lifeguard who risked her life to save another." In the next room, they could hear Lily practicing her presentation for the middle school science fair. Her project on basic coding principles had made it to the finals, inspired by watching Maya work on her internship projects. "You know," Rose continued, "I felt the same way when I started my business classes. All those terms I didn't know, people talking about their MBAs. But then I realized something. My years in restaurant kitchens taught me things they'll never learn in classrooms." Maya nodded, thinking about her own experiences. During her internship, she'd surprised the development team with her practical insights about water safety. While others focused on complex algorithms, she thought about real situations, like how to account for panic responses or how to make safety instructions clearer for non-English speakers. "I got an email from James today," Maya said, reaching for her laptop. "He wants me to lead a new project at Future Dynamics. They're developing an AI system that can predict rip currents and alert lifeguards before they form. He says my experience as a lifeguard brings a perspective they need." Rose beamed with pride. "See, that's not luck. That's God putting you exactly where you needed to be, with the exact experiences you needed to have." A crunch from the kitchen interrupted them, followed by Lily's voice. "Mom." The popcorn exploded again. They'd both laughed, hurrying to the kitchen. Some things hadn't changed. They still couldn't make popcorn without burning it. Their new house was bigger, in a safer neighborhood, but they'd brought their old habits and love with them. The kitchen was a mess of popcorn kernels, but it was also filled with evidence of their new life. Rose's business plan drafts covered the counter alongside sketches for her restaurant's layout. She'd named it Heaven's Kitchen, in memory of Maya and Lily's father, who had always said her cooking was divine. As they cleaned up together, Maya thought about how far they'd come. Her mom's business classes were going well. She'd even won a local entrepreneurship competition with her restaurant concept. Lily had found her own passion in technology, joining a robotics club at her new school. And Maya, she was learning to believe in herself. The next morning, as Maya stood at the podium facing a room full of potential donors and future scholars, she felt different. She looked at her mom and sister in the front row, at James and his wife smiling encouragingly, at Patricia giving her a thumbs up. 6 months ago, she began, her voice strong and clear, I was just a lifeguard doing my job. Today, I stand here not because of luck, but because someone saw potential in me that I sometimes struggle to see in myself. This foundation isn't just about scholarships, it's about believing that talent can come from anywhere and that everyone deserves a chance to reach their full potential. She paused, looking at the eager faces of other scholarship candidates in the audience. But I've learned something important along the way. Success isn't about leaving your past behind, it's about building on it. Everything I am today, everything I will become, is rooted in who I've always been. A daughter, a sister, a lifeguard, a dreamer. As applause filled the room, Maya caught her mom's eye. Rose was crying, but they were tears of joy. Later, 3 different families would approach them, sharing their own stories of struggle and hope. The foundation was growing, touching more lives than they'd imagined possible. That evening, as they celebrated with their traditional movie night, and yet another batch of burnt popcorn, Maya realized something. The knot in her stomach had transformed into something else, determination. She wasn't just a lucky girl who saved a CEO. She was Maya Johnson, and she was exactly where she was meant to be. 2 years had passed since that fateful day at the beach. Maya stood at the window of her Stanford dorm room, watching the California sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. On her desk sat her latest project, an advanced AI system for water safety that she'd developed during her summer internship at Future Dynamics. Her phone buzzed with a FaceTime call from home. Her mom's face appeared on screen, and Maya could see the bustling kitchen of Heaven's Kitchen behind her. The restaurant had opened 6 months ago, and it was already becoming a local favorite. Baby, are you ready for tomorrow? Rose asked, wiping her hands on her chef's apron. Lily won't stop talking about her speech. She's practiced it at least 20 times today. Maya smiled, thinking about her little sister, who wasn't so little anymore. At 14, Leonie had become the youngest member of her high school's advanced programming club. She'd be introducing Maya at tomorrow's foundation anniversary gala. I'm nervous, Mom, Maya admitted. 2 years ago, I was just trying to save someone. Now look at everything that's happened. Hold on, Rose said, moving to a quieter corner of the kitchen. Talk to me. What's really on your mind? Maya sat on her bed, looking at the photos on her wall. Her family at the restaurant opening, Lily winning the state science fair, her mom receiving her business certification, Maya's first day at Stanford. Sometimes it feels like a dream. Like I'll wake up and we'll be back in our old apartment, struggling to make ends meet. But we're not dreaming, Rose said softly. We worked for this. Yes, we got blessed with an opportunity, but look what we did with it. Your father would be so proud. A notification popped up on Maya's laptop, an email from James. The AI safety system she'd developed was being implemented at beaches across the country. Early testing showed it could predict dangerous conditions with 94% accuracy, potentially saving hundreds of lives. Did you see the latest foundation numbers? Maya asked, changing the subject. Over 50 students have received scholarships now, and 10 of them are already working on their own community projects. That's because you set the example, Rose replied. You showed them it wasn't just about getting an education, it was about lifting others up too. Maya glanced at her gala speech notes. Tomorrow, she'd be announcing the Foundation's new initiative, a program to bring coding and swimming lessons to underserved communities. It was her way of combining everything she'd learned, everything she was passionate about. The next evening, Maya stood backstage at the gala, smoothing her dress nervously. Through the curtain, she could hear Lily speaking. My sister didn't just save one life that day, Lily was saying, her voice clear and confident. She started a chain reaction of hope. In our old neighborhood, kids who never thought about college are now dreaming big. At our mom's restaurant, local teens are getting their first jobs, learning business skills. And at beaches across the country, Maya's AI system is helping lifeguards keep people safe. Maya felt a hand on her shoulder. It was James. Ready to see what you helped build? He asked with a warm smile. As Maya walked onto the stage, the audience rose in applause. She saw familiar faces everywhere: scholarship recipients and their families, her mom's restaurant staff, her Stanford professors, the Future Dynamics team. In the front row, Rose was crying happy tears, just like she had at the restaurant opening. 2 years ago, Maya began, I was a lifeguard who loved to code. Today, I'm a computer science student who still lifeguards every summer. The audience chuckled. Because some things don't change and shouldn't change. The desire to help others, the importance of remembering where you came from, the power of family. She paused, looking at all the young faces in the crowd, the newest scholarship recipients, full of dreams and determination. Success isn't about leaving your community behind, she continued. It's about growing strong roots that let you reach higher, then using those same roots to nourish others. Every one of us has the power to create ripples of change. Sometimes it starts with a single moment of courage, but it grows through countless moments of choice, choosing to work hard, to stay humble, to help others. After the speech, as Maya hugged her mom and sister, she felt complete. Their journey hadn't been easy. There had been doubts, adjustments, and challenges. But they'd faced them together, growing stronger with each step. Later that night, back at home, they sat in Rose's kitchen, eating slightly burnt popcorn and laughing about old times. The house was filled with the smell of Rose's famous peach cobbler, a new addition to her restaurant's menu. You know what I realized? Lily said, reaching for more popcorn. Our story isn't really about a rescue anymore. It's about what happens when people believe in each other. Maya looked at her family, her mum, successful restaurant owner and mentor to other small business dreamers, her sister, young tech enthusiast and community tutor, and herself, no longer just a lifeguard who got lucky, but a young woman making her mark on the world. No, Maya agreed, it's not about the rescue. It's about love, faith, and the courage to dive deep into water, into opportunities, into life itself. And we're just getting started.